So it is 6 o'clock, and as Nick has pointed out, I don't have a sign on. So there we go.
It's 6 o'clock in Arizona. That's my sign on.
Woof, woof. All right. So today we're going to be doing low poly skyboxes in Blender and exporting to Unity. And today I have with me Nick.
Hi.
And Sarah.
Hidey-ho, neighborino.
So what we're going to do, Sarah recently asked, what is a skybox?
I did.
So it's just like, most games implement it by having an image on like a cube that never gets closer or further from the player. So like it's distance, often the distance buildings or mountains, and you can never get closer to it. And so when you move left and right, it doesn't move, but you can like look up and down, and it'll show like clouds or ground, and you can rotate it. So
it functions as background image?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can never reach it.
How cheap?
Oh, we got a question. First question, is Unity an open world thing like OpenSyn and Second Life? You can do open world stuff in Unity. I haven't done it personally. I know, Nick, you've done a little game devy stuff.
My Unity experience is very low. I couldn't tell you at the moment.
Well, Sarah's our resident
noob.
But yeah, I haven't done it, but yeah, there are a lot of really cool open world sort of games that have been done in Unity. What's the site? Made with Unity. Google that. I'm sure there's an open world in there. Yeah. But today we're going to focus on skyboxes, which you can put into pretty much any game. It doesn't have to be open world. You can stick these in platformers. All right. I've cranked the volume up. Now it's getting yellow. So I'm using 279, but because we're going to just be building a mesh and taking renders of it, you can do this in pretty much any version of Blender. You can even use Maya, any other 3D rendering software. You could even do this in Paint if you really wanted to just draw the 6 images. I'm going for a low poly aesthetic just because I think low poly looks kind of cool, and some of the shapes in Blender make that easy for us. Let's get into it. I'm going to get rid of everything, actually, right after I turn on my screencast so you guys can see what buttons I'm pressing. Oh, it's already on. It's in one of these. Screencast keys.
I used Blender like once and spent a lot of time going, I have no idea what's going on.
Right? I always forget where it adds stuff. Yeah, there it is. So sometimes they add stuff down here. Sometimes they add it on the left. But you guys will be able to see what buttons I'm pressing, not hiding behind. Yeah. Not hiding behind the sheep. So I'm going to just hit A twice, select everything, and hit X to delete. Just because we're going to start from nothing. You also notice that there's this like life preserver thing in the center. That's our 3D cursor. Everything we're going to do is going to be from the origin. So the sheep's the party sheep. So he's the guy that hangs out on my stream all the time. You'll get sick of him after a while.
He's around when we're playing Guild Wars. It's a blast.
Yeah.
Well, it's a nice friendly reminder that someone is bobbing its head.
Yeah.
Constantly.
So the 3D cursor is where things get inserted. And sometimes in Blender, if you left click, if you don't change any options, yeah, first stream, setting it up, playing with it. It's your guys' first stream.
Yes.
This is your stream cherry.
Thank you.
You're not being very gentle with it.
Good dirty looks.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, so there are 3 people here. It's
Rob, Nick, and Sarah.
Yep.
Just chilling out. I am drinking wine.
I got a blue moon.
I'm driving home, so
I'm
also Asian, so I really can.
So 3D cursor thing, if you left click and it gets off into the middle of nowhere, you can hit Shift S and just do cursor to center, and it'll snap it back.
Oh, I actually didn't know that. That was a huge problem I had.
Yeah, so like if I do Shift A and add like a cube, it adds it at the.
You know, I'm the one that's probably going to be doing this if you ever need it done, right?
I still like to know how it works so I know what the limitations
Oh,
are.
no, that's fine.
But I don't want it out there. I want it at the center. So Shift S, cursor to center, Shift A, and then that's where things happen. But we want to do a skybox, right? And we want it low poly. So I'm going to do Shift A and go to icosphere. And then in the lower left, we can up the subdivisions. There's actually a couple ways to do this. Either the subdivisions here, but if you add something else or do some other action, like click away from it, you don't get that subdivision back. Let's do it this way. So I'm going to hit Tab to go into edit mode, and I'm going to hit W and do Subdivide. And
so just one more time, Rob is the one that's driving the computer. He's the one that's doing primarily the narration. I am Nick, and I'm not in the Discord channel. Rob would be Code Monkey 0, and Sarah is also not in the Discord channel.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm totally not going to pay attention to chat, so Nick's just going to interrupt me a whole lot.
I'm good at that.
So I'm going to do Subdivide 2 or 3 times just to get it a little more faceted and funky. And we only need the top half, so I'm going to hit 1 on the numpad, and then I'm going to actually switch to turn off limit selection to visible so that we can select things on both sides. And then A, deselect everything. I'm going to hit B to box select and just select the bottom half of the sphere. And so now I've got all the vertices on the bottom half selected. And just X, delete vertices, and it disappears. Oh, so what Derek, hitting 5 on the numpad will switch between perspective and orthographic. I think for this it won't really matter too much, just because we're going to set up the sphere and move the camera around. But yeah, it'll just changes how the 3D view works.
Okay. And then to the answering the are you making a game, Rob is making a game. I've been making a tabletop game for about 5 years, and that's not going anywhere.
My job is poking holes in things.
And Sarah's very good at telling everyone that their game sucks.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, so we've got our dome, and it's kind of tiny. So I'm going to hit A to select all, and then S to scale it. And I'm going to do 8, just to kind of make it a little bit bigger. It's a little bit easier to work in the viewport. Just when things are a little bit bigger, further away, you don't have to zoom in. The camera doesn't get as funky. So we've got our dome. It's big. We need a color. So I'm going to go over to materials. So it's this brown and orange, whatever doohickey tab, and say new. And we're just going to use the diffuse colors for materials. Materials are a super like rabbit hole. You can go in and like add textures and all kinds of crazy stuff. We're just going to do the diffuse, and I'm going to make it a nice sort of bluey, greeny sky color. That works.
That's sky colored?
It's my sky colored.
I'm like, where you're from? Because here it's not that. It's like almost brown.
You think? Should we do a brownish?
An Arizona sky.
Bluey. I don't know how to do bluey. Is bluey brown even possible?
Sarah's the color expert.
Can we bluey
You can
brown
do
it?
a gray brown. You can do kind of like a greenish color, but low saturation. That's not too terrible.
All right. We're gonna have a very green world.
So I don't understand what he's saying.
Flipping the normals. So in 3D graphics, things are rendered only when they're facing the camera. So you can have polygons, which is we've got this entire mesh made up of triangles. and all the polygons are technically facing outward. So if we put this in a game and looked at it from the inside, it wouldn't render those polygons because we were looking at the back side of them.
Okay. So what he's saying is that if we flip them, then
Right. But the fun thing is the Blender camera will render the backside of polygons for you.
okay.
So we don't need to flip them. It's one thing you can skip in this facet, just because we're going to render out images. But yeah, if you ever have a mesh and there's like holes in it or it doesn't show up, it's because the normals are facing away. Well, that can be.
Oh, so like when we're in a game, it's like, and there's a random just chunk of the sky missing.
Yeah, or like you stick your head in a wall and things like you'd expect to see the other side of the wall, but there's nothing there. It's because the
or weird background structures that's part of all the other images that have clipped through the.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I understand. I learned something.
Yay, learning.
The teacher has learned.
Some people might like this really, really sort of even polygonal aesthetic. I want to make mine a little bit more, have a little more personality.
Chaotic.
Yeah. So we're going to use another Blender feature. If we jump into the wrench, which is the modifiers, and click Add Modifier, and then go down to Displace, what this will do is it can move the actual vertices of the mesh based on the texture. So we need a texture. So in this texture, I'm just going to hit New, and that's going to actually put a new texture for us in this texture tab. So it looks like a checkerboard, chessboard, and it should already be selected. Yeah. It should already be selected because it's the only texture in our scene, and I'm just going to change the type from image or movie and make it into clouds. And clouds is just like a procedural generated black and white image that we get for free. And if I go back into the modifiers tab, I can actually crank up how much it affects it. Uh-oh, I did something wrong. It is not affecting it. Oh, it's because we were in edit mode. All right, so you got to get out of edit mode before you see the texture. So you can see as I turn up this strength, certain vertices are getting closer to the center and other vertices are getting further away. And that's because of that cloud texture, because it's just sort of a random mishmash of things. I'm actually going to leave it close to 1. Actually, 1 looks pretty good. So this will, as we look around, we can see the normals kind of, or not the normals, the specular kind of changing randomly. Gives it that nice kind of personality look to our green.
So our
pollution-y sky.
Our pollution-y sky needs to have a personality.
Yeah, before it comes to life.
It's Frankensky.
Mm-hmm.
Frankensky? I don't know.
Frank the Sky? Maybe.
Who knows?
Yeah.
It's kind of brainy.
It's the brain.
I guess you could do if you have a game like you're inside of a brain, and the brain is just like a hollow shell.
It's a really sad brain.
Yeah.
Those paper brains. Oh, I'm getting too much. Too much.
You've got
too
me
much
distracted. Now I'm thinking about
biology.
mapping neurons and
Distractions.
traveling along them. Like, here, come up with the memory. Find the other parts.
Yeah. So we've got our sky dome set up, and we want to have a ground. If your game isn't going to be able to see like below the play field, you can kind of skip this, but I'm going to add a plane anyways. So just Shift A, plane, and it's created and it's at the center, but we can't see it because it's inside the dome. Since I know it's selected, if I look up here in the right, I can see this orange highlight on the plane. I'm just going to scale it by the same amount, 8, and
it sticks out.
Sticks out now. And we want to be able to use all of the dome, so I'm just going to grab this blue arrow and drag it down till it's almost to the bottom, so that we have sort of a ground with a dome. And I'm going to do the same thing to give it a color. So I'm going to go into Material, New, and then Diffuse. And here in Arizona, everything is just sort of a sandy, khaki, dirty brown. We have a sad color palette here.
It's exciting. It's a lot of different kinds of brown.
It's very homey.
All the browns. And you can kind of go nuts with this if you want like mountains in the distance or clouds or whatever you want in the distance. You can change up this ground plane or add them into the dome. But I'm just gonna leave it flat for the sake of brevity. That's a word.
We've been so brief so far.
Yeah.
The key to good communication.
So you can kind of change your ground plane, give a character, let it be flat, what have you. So we've got a sky, we've got a ground. Now we need a sun. We need a light source, not a sun. So I'm just gonna hit Shift A again, go into lamp, and I'm gonna do a point lamp. And if you do this with this scale, so that point lamp will send light further or shorter depending on the settings. But with the defaults, the way we've set this up, it's fine as it is. The light's going to reach the edges or the mesh and reflect enough to get back to the camera, and it'll look okay. It'll give us all our nice specular kind of highlights that we see on the outside of the dome. Even though you can't see it, it's in there. And then we need a camera. So Shift A, camera, and now we want to be able to see that camera, but it's inside the dome. It'd be great if we had like X-ray vision. Right?
So we're gonna get X-ray vision.
Yeah, so we're gonna give ourselves X-ray vision on this object only. So I'm gonna go back to the Object tab, so the orange square, and down in Display we have X-ray. So now I can see the camera even though it's inside, and I can see which way it's pointing.
Why is there no benefit to doing that with the light source?
Because it's just sitting there, we're not going to turn it or
And just at the origin.
play with it. Yeah, and because we left the 3D cursor at the origin, it just lives there, or everything gets inserted there. Cool, so we have sky, ground, light, and a camera. We can actually render out a version or an image of this. So if we go to the, is this the render tab? Yeah, the render tab, and click the render button, it's going to render the ground because, and hit escape, you can see the camera is
aiming right, like heavily at the ground.
It's looking straight down. If I want to modify where the camera is pointing easily, since we're going to be using very cardinal directions, I'm going to go into the rotations. This is in the N tab. Oops, N. So if you just hit N, it'll pop out this shelf, and just change these all to 0. And now you can see the camera is pointing straight down. So if I hit F12, which is the same as clicking the render button, we get a view of straight down. I'm going to turn this guy up to 90. Oop, that was the wrong one. I wanted X, not Y.
Gosh, man, practice your physics.
Every system's different. So now
we're looking at the...
Yeah, now we're looking at the inside of the dome. So we know it's working. So we need to render out our images. And so like we said before, some places it's called an environment map or a skybox, a 6-sided skybox. It uses square images, so we need to change the camera to capture square images at a 90-degree angle, because 90 times 4 is, ask the mathematicians,
12.
All right.
2
But
pi.
you're 2 pi? Yeah.
2 pi.
In this case, because we're talking about degrees.
These are awful.
And I don't like your unit, so I'm switching it.
Yeah, why are you using degrees, man? Use radians.
There's like a dozen different
1 tau.
angle measure.
I don't have a tau button on my keyboard.
Anyway.
So we need to modify the camera. So
Wait, you have a pi button on your keyboard?
somewhere. You're actually looking for it.
I can't find it. He's lying. There's no pi button.
No pi button. So we jump into the camera properties. We can change its focal length or its field of view. So focal length and field of view are kind of two sides of the same coin. I'm actually just going to change it from focal length to field of view. So focal length is measured in millimeters. I'm going to change it to field of view, and I'm just going to switch it to 90. And you'll see the camera is now this very cubey looking thing. And then we want to change its kind of sensor, what the shape of the image it's going to capture at and the resolution it's going to capture at. So if I jump back to the render tab, we've got these dimensions. So I want to capture 1K images because my dome is so detailed I need tons of pixels. So I'm just going to change the X and the Y to 1024. And you can see now my camera is a square. Blender also lets you render out kind of test images because rendering can take a long time. So if I drop this guy down to, let's say, 10%, it's going to be 102 pixels by 102 pixels. So if I hit F12, it's teeny tiny. If I crank it all the way up to 100, it's going to be 1024 by 1024. Kind of cool.
Snazzy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you could totally make Doom.
Yes. So we've hit render, right? So now we have this image in our buffer. It's in Blender, but it's not saved anywhere. I'm just going to go to Image, Save as Image, and I have a project for Unity. Probably starts with an S. Low Poly Skybox starts with an L. And I'm just going to stick it in my Assets folder. And I'm going to call this one Front.
Ooh.
Save image.
Is one going to be called Back?
Potentially. Potentially. So the kind of important thing to note here is, so we have an up and a down, right? Those are going to have orientations based on the front. So we're going to base everything off the front. So the top edge of the front is going to be the bottom edge of the top.
Yeah.
And the bottom of the front is going to be the top edge of the down.
As if you were just turning your head up and down.
Yep. So we got front. Let's do, should we do a circle? You change Z, turn this 90 degrees, hit F12 again. Here's our left. I know it looks very similar, but it's very different. Save as image, change it.
Left out.
Left. Oh,
Wait, really? There you go.
yeah. Hit escape to clear that out.
180.
180.
I
F12.
can
Image.
1 pi.
Save as
Arithmetic
image.
is not real math.
Back. This is the interesting part where it's just the same thing over and over. Let's switch it up and do -90 instead of 270. How do you like them apples?
Yay, you were paying attention in trig class?
I was. All right. So we have all of our front, back, left, right. I'm going to clear out the Z. This is important because I'm going to pitch the camera
up. So you need to go
180 on the X. Now you can see it's facing up. So if I go back down to 90.
So is that arrow on the camera to help with orientation?
Yes.
So you get a, okay, yeah, so that makes sense.
Top, because we can rotate the camera. Oops. I always clicked the wrong one. 0. We can rotate the camera along its view axis. So you see I'm turning it upside down.
Mm-hmm.
So if I render it, my image is upside down. So I'd have to do like some post-processing, which why do that when we can just capture
it right the first time?
Yeah. So I'm going to make sure I'm looking forward, and then I'm going to rotate the camera back on the X, so 180. And this is our up. Awesome. Save as image. Or top.
I like up.
Because then you don't end up with the bottom. Nobody wants to be bottom.
And then I'm just going to clear them all out, make them 0. Image, save as image. Down. Is that 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Save as image. Cool.
We have 6 things.
So we have 6 images. I would recommend saving this. Let's go back into, see if I can navigate my bajillion folders.
Yeah, I saw the project I'm working on in there.
Uh-huh. So I'm going to save the blend file just in case.
We need to come back to it.
Yeah.
Ever.
And I'm going to, oh no, I closed Unity.
How dare you.
Right now
This is a Unity Blender tutorial where Unity, not part of it.
Yeah. So now we get to wait the 5 minutes for Unity to open.
It's not that.
No. I already set up an empty scene.
Oh, I see. So you're not going to show me how to set up a scene?
Nope. That is not part of this tutorial.
You know, I want my money back.
Okay.
So give that sandwich that you ate back.
Damn it. But I like the sandwich. And we need to fix the stream because I didn't set up a scene to do this. There we go. All right. So now we're in Unity. I've just got a mostly empty scene here. I did stick a thing on the camera so I can move it around. But if I hit play and I look around, actually, let's do some context. 3D object, cube. Pull the cube out a little bit. Can we see the cube? No. Why can I not see my cube?
Do not know.
Did it not? Oh, good. It didn't save. All right.
It didn't save your settings.
No. So I just have the standard assets pulled in. You can just do assets. You close the text tab. Did I? It's just hiding. There it is. I'm going to do standard assets, cameras, prefabs, free look camera. Get rid of you. So this just lets me look around. And I'm going to reset its position. So now we should have cube. Oh, that's why the cube was way off. So
It's a cube.
huzzah. So now we just have a scene. So this sky is called a procedural sky in Unity. It's just generated. I think there's a sun somewhere around here. Yeah, there's a sun. But it's just a background image, essentially. So we've got our 6 images imported, and we need to modify these slightly. So I'm going to select them all and change their wrap mode from repeat to clamp. So when we use the 6-sided skybox, because it's putting the 2 images next to each other, sometimes there's a little bit of inaccuracy, and setting that clamp just kind of hides the inaccuracy and probably never see it.
Hacks. Hacksaw.
So we need a skybox. So I'm going to right click, and I know you guys on the stream can't see the menus, but just trust that I'm actually doing this. I'm going to right click, create, and do a material. I think you can actually also do it through this guy, and you guys can't see that either. So, oh well. Here's my new material. I'm going to change the shader. Yeah, these guys aren't popping up.
It's just a little delayed.
I'm going to open up the shader and go into Skybox and 6-sided. And it's going to change into a shader that I can stick 6 images in. And I'm just going to drag and drop them. And now back. Oop, that's front. Back. Front. And one of the fun things about environment maps and the way we captured it, our left and our right are swapped. So I've got to put the left image in the right spot and the right image in the left spot. Then up and down are all the same. You can see in the preview here it looks okay. But to put it on my camera, I need to go in to the main camera, add component, and there's a skybox component that lets us put a custom material in there. Just drag and drop, swaps it out. Let me make this bigger. And now we have a nice faceted skybox.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it's all done through just those 6 images. So that mesh, that mesh could be super high poly, but because we have renders of it, it's just those images.
That is really cool.
And we
also, when you said skybox, I just pictured a box in the sky that we'd be watching something out of. So
can't see the chat.
It's close.
Noob mode.
So yeah, that's pretty much the whole process. You can go in and pretty much build like a little scene for your skyboxes if you want buildings or hills or clouds or whatever you want, and then just render out those 6 images.
I'm now just imagining Halo and the other part of the Halo.
We could do something like that as well.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so the skybox is always from the perspective of the images. So wherever that camera is. So if you don't have to work off the origin, you just have to work from a single position. And then whatever those 6 images are, you get a skybox.
Skybox.
Huzzah! I don't know why you wouldn't work from the origin.
Skyrim
Skybox.
Skybox.
To not work from the origin, but
Yeah.
I can't think of any.
Yeah, and then it's just building out a more detailed kind of scene. But if you just have like your level going out a ways and you don't see anything below, it's just you just see the sky. It looks kind of cool.
I think the wine is kicking in.
Yeah, feeling
It's
good.
like, woo, spin the picture.
Yeah, let's see if we can.
See if you can set up servers. Simulator sickness.
Oh, should we throw this in VR?
I know. Oh, please no.
Isn't there a VR game that came out recently that's supposed to help deal with simulator sickness?
Oh, it like trains your brain.
Yeah, I need that.
Hmm.
But I don't think I ever had any problems just messing around with 3D graphics. And, they're fun to spin, so that happened a lot.
Spin! To win.
So I guess if there aren't any questions in the chat that I can answer,
I think the old chat.
I think we'll rock out with the half hour, 35-minute stream, or we can sit here and build out a skybox of doom.
That sounds like a exciting and long event.
Yeah.
Ooh, we should skybox my mural.
Yeah, we could.
I designed a mural for
a fisheye ones.
For a planetarium screen, and so it was designed for a dome shape, but of course I just designed it flat. And then when you actually displayed it and projected it, actually fit pretty well, so it's really skewed in the flat image, which I probably could have had an easier time if I had 3D software, like if I'd used Blender, but I didn't. I just used Photoshop. But it came out really nice, so probably skew that, actually make it a digital dome.
Digital dome.
And then everyone can see what we got married under.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. I think it's time for another beer.
You need to have a sign off too.
Oh, what's my sign off?
To be determined?
All right, next time on To Be Determined.
He'll be determined eventually to find a sign off and sign on.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for tuning in, and thanks Nick and Sarah for coming and hanging out with me while I talked at you.
Isn't that kind of how it normally goes?
Yeah, depends on what we're talking about.
More microphone this time?
Yeah, more microphone this time. Very microphone-y.
Okay.
Cool. Well, insert sign off here. See you guys next Tuesday. That'll be my sign off. See you next Tuesday.
That's super creative.
Yes.
I like it.
It's equivalent to the Skybox in terms of its creativity.
I'm a programmer or developer, not an artist.
That was super efficient. There's beauty in efficiency.
Mm.
Okay.
I like it.
All right. Well, have a good week, guys. See you next time.